Not keeping your emotions in the tab is a symbol of weakness, and weakness of this kind is a symbol of modern men. Emotional train wrecks and entitled crybabies and brats have never been more prevalent, and society keeps rewarding them for their misbehavior. Are you one of them? Do you want to change? Well, to do so, you'll have to strip yourself of all unnecessary emotion and focus on yourself alone. Do you think you have what it takes? I dare you to watch this video and take into the A, and if you manage to pull through it without making excuses for yourself, these 5 ways of becoming cold are the first step towards success and becoming unstoppable. Number 5, self-manipulation. Emotions are nothing more than a manifestation of self-control. The more prevalent they are, the less control you have over yourself. And the truth is, you can't just remove emotions from the equation, at least not without severely deconstructing them. You need to understand what drives your emotions, how they're triggered, and how they work and function before you can dissolve them successfully. You have to see what triggers your motivation and what demotivates you, what brings joy and sadness to you. And once you've located the source, you have to irritate it, to provoke it. And once those emotions appear, you need to fight against them. You need to stay resilient and not cater to them. This way you will manipulate and condition yourself into a corner where the only way for you to escape it more powerful is to resist the urge to cave in. Take this for an example. You provoke yourself that you'd like a bar of Snickers or a bag of chips at the moment. You need to visualize the taste and wake up the urge and craving for it to the fullest, to the point that you can practically taste it in your mouth. And then you need to deny yourself the pleasure of actually eating it. Once you associate such cheap pleasures with hatred and struggle, and once you start feeling proud of succeeding at staying true to your character, only then will you be creating a stronger personal structure. This way you will be torturing yourself, yes, but you will only be doing so because you are weak and you cannot par with yourself not to eat a snack for God's sake. Do you realize how weak that is? One day you'll lose a loved one and you won't be able to do anything about it. And it will break you because you couldn't cope with the loss of a small pleasure, let alone such a big occurrence. You're probably seeking a way of triggering motivation to do such a hard feat. And to that we say, screw motivation. Motivation has brought nothing but weakness. It is easily corruptible due to it being bound to emotions. If you want results, trash motivation in favor of cold, hard discipline. Number 4, rigorous discipline. To become truly disciplined, you will first need to understand the function of your emotions, and then you can combine their neutralization with sheer discipline. These two work in benefit one another, and as such, if you're developing one characteristic, you will parallelly develop the other one. That said, discipline itself is more of a habit-changing process, and the work you do will be less emotional and more directly functional. The best course of action for your increase of discipline is just waking up in the morning. Wake up early. In a week of waking up at, say, 7 a.m. flat, you'll see how massive your character change will be, and you'll see how easier it will be to discipline yourself. It's important to start slow and easily to show yourself you can do it, which removes the demotivation factor from the equation, but then you're going to need to step up your game. You'll need to be devoid of when working on your discipline is joy. You shouldn't be joyful towards the end goal. You should be focused on the process and doing it as best as possible. Plus, it's best to organize your day by hours, creating a precise time frame for your work, your physical activity, your eating schedule, and your free time. To keep this part of yourself in line, you will have to introduce a penalty system. For example, if you don't complete your training well, if you slack off, you deny yourself your free time. This way, you will have a better show of how well your process is going forward, and you will see acute results in the first month already. However, it's easy to relapse if you're close to people that are slackers and good-for-nothing lazy asses. They'll always find a way to criticize you and make fun of you, and while you shouldn't care, it is easy to feel a momentary lapse in judgment. This brings us to the next step. Number 3, cut off the noise. It's as easy as this. If they don't support you on your journey towards bettering yourself, just stop spending time with them. And we're not just talking about vocal support. If someone's making fun of you for trying, you absolutely shouldn't have a dilemma about dropping them. The harder part is dropping people that you're close with and whose habits are similar to those that brought you to your low point. Say you have a friend who drinks a lot, visits the club often, eats like a pig, and generally has habits that are bad for him. And you too, especially if you used to share them. It might be tempting to try and help them. However, the reality is that people like that simply cannot be helped if they do not seek help. it's an endless cycle of waste, and they're the ones that have to break it. As such, it is generally considerably better that you just distance yourself and forget about them. Don't call them. Don't spend time with them. Do not waste your time. If they're perceptive enough, they'll see that you've removed them because they've become a nuisance, because of how bad of an influence they are, and will either start bettering themselves or will continue onwards with their endless cycle. That said, if they decide to better themselves and they come to you for guidance, you shouldn't shrug them off, but you should be concise. In the end, they will only be able to help themselves, and you're just a bystander, and by helping them, you will keep them dependent on you. To be truly unstoppable and incorruptible, you will have to seek independence as the ultimate form of self-sustainment, which brings us to the penultimate point. Number 2, trust only yourself. Simply put, you should never rely on others, at least not fully. You never know what the other person is thinking, and as such, you should never work following another person's judgment. Your perspective and perception should be the driving force behind your existence, and you should never compromise it for others. This is extremely hard. Trusting yourself and only yourself is a very hard thing to do, as it practically means that you will remain enclosed for most people, if not all of them. And even if you were to meet a person who has only your best intentions in mind, you shouldn't cave in, because you will have another link to worry about. And if that link is weaker than you are, a person who wants to do you harm will do it through a different person. And believe me, if you're working towards your benefit, you'll always have enemies. People are generally very antagonistic towards those who are better than them. Those people are leeches who are very perceptive to your plans, ideas, and general sentiment toward your current status, which is why you should never open up publicly about anything. Which brings us to the final point of today's video. Number 1, stay silent. Screw your posts on Instagram. Screw your ego tripping. Screw telling people how much you benched, how much money you made, what car you drive, where you've been, how you live, or what you eat. Screw all that. As, apart from allowing you to be a step forward and denying your enemies a window into your life for them to seek your weaknesses, you will also be reducing your people-pleasing personality. You will grow accustomed to valuing only your opinion, your values, and your necessities. You will grow completely. Plus, staying silent will grant you an edge in social situations, and you will approach them much more as a spectator